Let me introduce Giulia Gaddari, who's Senior Manager at Malta Financial Services Authority, Professor Ruggero Bertelli, who's Full Professor at the University of Siena, and Massimo Siano, who's Managing Director for Southern Europe at 21 Shares. So as you can imagine, we've kind of mixed different point of view on one of the main questions we're discussing at QUANT 2025, which is which kind of technology improvement development will help the most in your work, financial advisors and investors. So welcome everyone, it's a pleasure having you back. And Professor Bertelli, I would just like to start with you, and I remind you your question for the speakers with the number that you had. Professor Ruggero Bertelli first, just a quick one, your reaction to what we just saw.
Kahneman told exactly the same things. 3 months. 3 months is enough. So we have to see our portfolio results every 3 months and then be tranquil.
Do you think in your experience, is it acceptable to hear, oh, well, look at your account on every 3 months to their clients?
1 year is better.
1 year is
so
better.
For the anchoring theory, we can start with 1 year, and the investor will ask for more frequent observation, and probably 3 months could be correct. 1 year, every 1 year is better. All right,
we started with behavioral finance and how to get to financial happiness, but let's move closer to what we're discussing today, which is the impact of technology. We understand that the speed of this revolution, you know, AI, not just blockchain, Bitcoin, and so on, is rapidly accelerating. So what do you make of how can they really use all of this and what the difference will make in providing better services, for example, to their clients, Professor?
I think that we have to think about the 3 main scenarios, very important scenarios for us. The first one is the scenario that I like more, and is a scenario where in which the bank, a new, modern and digitalized bank, invests a lot of money in technology, a lot. And in this way, this bank or intermediary could maintain the control of a wealth they have, the banks have, and is the data, personal data, financial data. And they, with algorithms and platforms, could use this data to perform and to realize the better solution for client, personalized for client, and the banks, the intermediaries, maintain the control of this data and realize something that is valuable for clients. This is a very interesting scenario, and this is the scenario that I like because I study intermediaries, so I want that they have a great future. I think that this could name this scenario the Azimuth scenario. Why the Azimuth scenario? Because you know, Pietro Giuliani told us about the new bank. The new bank, a bank with no history, a new bank, a bank that could use the technology to satisfy the clients. This is the idea. I think that big banks have to invest a lot of money in technology, and they can probably win. But the second scenario is a terrible one. The bank as a service by big tech company. They are the enemy. I mean, let me say, they are the enemy. The big tech. The big tech will use the banking information, they have the algorithms, they have the platforms to use this data and to use banks to realize and control the process. They want to control. And I think that we have to be careful because, for example, the Bitcoin scenario, the technology is important, but they want the control. So they want to use this data for this scenario. And they have a lot of money to invest, and they can obtain the result. I think that we do not want to substitute the Federal Reserve with Apple, but they want to control the Bitcoin and the blockchain technology to obtain the result. This is a very interesting scenario, very probable scenario, because they have the money, and so they can take the control of this process. And obviously, the client could be happy, for example, because they can use platforms and services using something very simple to use. The third scenario is Massimo Siani scenario, or Daniele Bernardi scenario. The DeFi the crypto ecosystem becomes the mainstream system. This is
decentralized finance for everyone.
Exactly. Decentralized finance for everyone is your scenario, is the Daniele Bernardi scenario. Obviously, I am joking, but okay. Because the final clients could exchange digital asset peer-to-peer. It's a dream. No intermediaries, zero intermediaries, no intermediation, peer-to-peer exchange. I can exchange digital asset, credit and debit digitalized, freely, without intermediaries. So the cost is down, the intermediaries disappear, but what is the problem? In my opinion, the margin. If you cancel an intermediary, you cancel a value, a margin. And who will have these margins in a peer-to-peer scenario, in a peer-to-peer crypto ecosystem? Because this is a big problem, I think. So this third scenario is the death of the intermediaries, and I am going to retire in the next years. So probably for me is equal, but not for us. I think that these appearing margins could be a great problem for our industry.
Well, looking at the balance sheet of traditional bank and intermediaries like 2024, 2023, where they're making a lot of money in terms of commissions and then margins and
so they can invest.
Yes.
They have to invest.
They have to invest. Are they investing in the right direction or enough? What's your sense?
I think that they have to invest more, massive amount of money to win against the big tech companies. They are so strong. The big tech companies is the Amazon scenario, the Apple scenario, the Musk scenario.
And indeed, it's very interesting because on last Saturday at the Forex, the Italian governor of central bank, Panetta, said exactly this, meaning we're not against digital asset, but what our main concern in Europe is that American digital tech giant can step in with their own digital currencies, for example, and creating confusion in the market and creating a lot of feedback. But Massimo Siano, what's your sense? And we are talking also about technological trends like tokenization and so on. So what's your sense of these three scenarios that Professor Bertelli made?
Yeah, technology exists already.
Absolutely.
Okay? You pick up Solana, you pick up Ethereum, Sui, whatever, any layer one crypto, yeah? You tokenize shares, you list it in Solana, you list it in Ethereum, and you don't need anything more. You don't need banks, you don't need any more distribution intermediaries. And you have a global scale. So the biggest loser is the distribution.
Yeah.
And the fact that Europe is not winning this competition is because the regulators are ignorant and are stopping startups to flourish and to go to a large scale. And this is we are seeing it in every single business. From financial business, fintech, the biggest problem is our regulators, to fintech, biotech, whatever. There is a reason why they grow up in the Silicon Valley and they don't grow up here. Because they can have a scale there in the United States, and they don't have scale here because the first enemy is the regulators. Not because people are stupid here. Brains are drained, they go to the US to do so.
Well, Massimo, it's an ecosystem. To me, it's not just regulation, it's also financing, it's also talent and the relation between,
Correct. The European talents go to US because the regulators here don't understand, but they have their job, and they want to, prohibit because they don't, regulators are not, there are three powers, yeah? You make law, you judgment, and the execution power. Regulators are bureaucrats. They are not elected. But in the European case, and not just in Italy, they are, in my opinion, a kind of extra power that we don't need. And it's the same in the US. The problem is in the US you can sue SEC. They lose it, and then you carry on. Here we don't see any tech company or any startups, including us, suing the regulators. And that's a big problem, because if we don't sue regulators, but we just see our brain go to US, we will just become poor. End of the story. The internet story shows one thing. The distribution is the biggest loser. And this is Internet 3.0. So financial system is, in my opinion, in Europe, doesn't have the scale. And that's not my word.
Yeah, absolutely.
The CEO of UBS said so. So we cannot merge with other banks because we have a regulator in Austria, regulator in Italy, regulator in Europe, etc. Draghi said exactly the same things. Okay, I spoke too much, but I think you get the sense of it. Yeah?
That's a great point, Massimo. And talking regulators and supervision, now, Giulia, what's your experience in Malta? How are you proactive adapting to new kind of scenarios, letting innovation, and matching this with the trust which is needed in the market?
Exactly. So I'm in a bit of a difficult position here, being the only representative from the regulator. Clearly, just to tie with what Massimo was saying, clearly we are in very different situation between the US and Europe. At the same time, clearly regulators are enacting what politicians have came up with and what has been drawn up by the EU legislation. This also holds for the Malta Financial Services Authorities, of course. I think a good starting point, as it was mentioned during the beginning of this conference, is that it's widely recognized that the area is it's over-regulated. However, this is a starting point to ensure that certain business models can actually make it to the end investor, because we live in a highly regulated environment. In our case, in Malta, as Chris Manicaro has mentioned already, the approach has been quite proactive in terms of new business models. We've been one of the first jurisdictions to holistically regulate activities in relation to crypto assets, which were called as virtual financial assets before. And in general, the approach is that of, in principle, looking favorably upon new business models. Of course, however, Massimo made a very good point. it's important to understand them. There needs to be capacity building within the regulator to understand what we are talking about, the technologies we are talking about, and how they can fit within the different frameworks. This is something the MFSA is trying to do. Obviously, thanks to the efforts that have been done in early days in 2018 with the launch of the VFA framework, now it came much easier for us to implement MiCA. It was just a matter really, since both MiCA and the old VFA framework were inspired by MiFID, it was just a matter of realigning what we had as a whole framework to be compliant with MiCA. We are starting to see the new applications in terms of MiCA. It's an industry that it's developing. However, as a regulator, our primary concern will always be protection of the end investor. That's simply our remit. So clearly, any new applicant that comes in, and we are very happy to entertain pre-authorization meeting, or even scoping meetings. Any applicant would need to comply with the authorization process that we have in place, which, although painful at times, should be an element of relief ultimately, because it's a matter of ensuring the quality of the operators in the market.
Oh, absolutely. So, Massimo, my understanding is that different regulators, they tend to have different approaches, but we know that Europe launched 2020 their digital finance strategy, which includes MiCA, which includes digital operating resilience for banks, which includes AI Act. And I think that from the scenarios from Professor Bertelli, he was saying the third is kind of a peer-to-peer world. Is this the world that you think would be better for retail investors looking ahead? Massimo?
No, to reply to Bertelli's question, say, if I understood well, you said basically it's if we cut the distribution, there's no margin for the distributors. Correct. But there will be margin for the new entrant. And you gave already the solution. The new entrant are the big tech, that they will take over the existing actors, which are the banks. Mm-hmm. And this is something that even the European Central Bank don't consider. Why? Okay, you know exactly what is the problem of the digital euro. Okay, it could be a good idea, the digital euro, yeah? But what is the problem of the digital euro? Okay, you know that when you open a bank account, your account for the bank, from a bank point of view, is a liabilities, passivo. Why? Because technically the bank borrow the money from you guys and lend it to the central bank. That's the bank arbitrage. With the digital euro, you know, a proper digital euro, the yield, the interest rate of the central bank should go straight peer-to-peer to the guy that have the euro.
You are right.
Without bank intermediaries, which is fantastic. Yeah. Now, the European Central Bank wants the limit of 3,000 euro of this interest. Why? Because otherwise the banking system collapses. But excuse me, if this is the case, the banking system will collapse anyway. Because the tech industry will make a stable coin of euro, consumer will buy a stable coin and will get all the interest rate for whatever amount. And the banking system will collapse in any case.
If the digital euro is there, what the central bank is saying, there's no meaning to have a stable coin based on the euro. Because
correct.
it doesn't add any value.
But they will not make a digital euro because the banks are against. That's why there's no big digital euro. By the way, you want to make a digital euro because they say, oh, European want to be independent from Visa, from all the, you know, from the payment system. We want to have our own payment system. Fine. I ask a question to some guys of Banca Italia. Say, well, what blockchain are you using, you know, in order to be independent? And the guy of Banca Italia, one of these guys, I don't mention the name, I don't remember, he says, well, Bitcoin is not a currency. So he didn't even understand the question. So we are at this level. we are this level, yeah? Because if you want to be independent, you have to create your own blockchain, your own layer one. You don't go to Ethereum or Solana, etc. You become, but you get all the risk of that, because if there is a problem, if there is a flaw, there is an hacker, it will be straight to the European Central Bank. That's why the Federal Reserve don't make a digital dollar, and they let the market do a stable currency.
Professor Bertelli?
Yes, the question is that we observe the bank in the essential banking service. Liability, asset and liability, and the classic intermediation between deposit and asset. This is a kind of banking, but not the all service banking. This is the very essential point of the existence of a bank when the bank make credit to the economy. And we know that this now exists a lot of peer-to-peer platform to assure the lending, to assure the credit system. So I think that this is not the point. The point is not to defend the intermediation in this basic meaning. I don't know if this is important, and the bank to defend this point must be like a PayPal, like something like that. Probably this is really true. But the intermediation is something that is more complex. Intermediation means that people have to make decisions about their future, about investment, about credit, and the problem is that this kind of business is in discussion between traditional banking system and the big companies, not the crypto ecosystem. The crypto ecosystem is effectively a disruption for the banking system. Absolutely yes. But the problem is the big tech, because the big tech could take the control of this process. And I think they want to take the control of this process. So I think that we need, you are completely right, we need in banking giant like the US ones. And we need this kind of bank because we need someone that could front the big tech companies in this scenario. I think that you are completely right when you are speaking about the digital euro. It's exactly the topic. Exactly that topic.
Let me also hear from the Malta Financial Services Authority, Giulia Gaddari, in terms of your experience in openness to licensed intermediaries that serves, professional funds and the different options that are there and you're working with.
Sure. Obviously, we're going back in the realm of relatively traditional finance. In this case, nothing yet on decentralized finance, of course. But again, the experience of the MFSA over the years has focused quite a bit on funds investing in crypto, besides the Virtual Financial Assets Act that I've mentioned. This means that we have been open to applications for, obviously, funds that are targeting non-retail clients that are proposing different business models and have direct or indirect exposure to cryptos. And at the moment we can count on quite a set of established funds. Some of them are doing relatively well. I think the advantage, again, nothing revolutionary here, but the advantage Malta has compared to other jurisdictions in the EU is the wide offer of fund vehicles and fund regulatory frameworks that can host different investment strategies. There's virtually no restriction when it comes to investment strategies, so it can encompass even crypto assets. That the jurisdiction is offering for non-retail fund. We have two main lines sort of frameworks. The license framework, which obviously it's relatively regulatory heavy. We're always talking about a non-retail fund, but obviously the requirements are much more onerous. And the notified fund. And recently we have expanded the notified fund to also allow promoters to have notified funds that are self-managed, so almost tantamount to a manager which doesn't require a license. Clearly, obviously, this is all within a space that is not it is exempt from the Alternative Investment Fund Directive, so it's quite a space in which Malta and MFSA could exercise the discretion that certain regulations have in coming up with new regulation. And I think that can be, it's an interesting point to consider when evaluating the jurisdiction, for sure.
Well, Massimo, there's a question for you from the room here. In a peer-to-peer world with no intermediaries, how can we manage the risk that junk stuff is packed into an ISIN and it's sold to unaware savers who will lose at the end all the money? Today, MiFID, they say, is kind of a guarantee, but how about tomorrow?
It's a very abstract question. It's a beautiful question, but it's not easy to reply in 20 seconds. Who is the winner? Who is the loser? So I'm in trouble to reply to this question. What I can say is that the other revolution in the past, the other disruptive revolution in the past, cut many jobs and created new jobs. And this will be the same. Banking jobs will be different. This conference in the next 20 years will be very different. And actors here, ETFs will be cannibalized. I don't think ETFs will exist in the next 10, 15 years. So my job will not exist. Just to give you, well, there would be another way of saving. And there will be other needs, you know. I think that the technology will merge with biotech, and there will be more investments in healthcare.
Do you think that, for example, bond emission, like, you know, in a few minutes, the Treasury here will announce the results of BTPP, will remain kind of the same, or there will be kind of a tokenization also of bond issues?
It will be tokenized and go peer-to-peer to any wallet you have. Worldwide. Without any intermediaries. But the technology already exists. Guys, internet. Let's make another example on internet. Do you remember, you know, some research provider in the 90s, Yahoo, Lycos, AltaVista, you remember that? The market bet that Yahoo would be the winner. Even the market was wrong. Google came up later. Actually, the guys of Google applied to have a job at Yahoo, and Yahoo rejected them. They start up Google, and Google won the competition 3 years later. It could be the same year. Maybe the layer 1 blockchain is not Ethereum, is not Solana, is not whatever, Sui, etc. Is something that will be invented in the next 2-3 years. We don't know. For sure we know that our current actors, which is our intermediaries, the banks, etc., will be disrupted if they don't participate to the scale of the tech industry. They have to invest in tech, but they can't, because the regulators don't understand that, and the first action of regulators is don't do that.
Well, in the meantime, they're fighting back, because just to give you a number, the margin on the BTPP at the end of the game will be kind of 90 to 100 million in terms of commissions to intermediaries. And so you can imagine how fiercely are they going to fight to maintain that kind of a margin.
I want to make you a better comparison. Regulators today in Europe are doing like a religion did when the printing press was invented. Burn books. Say, no, we don't care about printing press. You just, you know, if you write a book against religion, you just burn it together with the books. What happens is that they didn't agree with the Catholic in England. They didn't agree with the Catholic religion. In Germany, they didn't agree with the Catholic religion, and they become richer than Florence, Genova, and Rome, that become poor. That's what happens. That's what happens. The brain went there, the technology went there, and the study went there. You know, Galileo Galilei was in prison here, and Newton was, that the copy from Galileo Galilei had developed it, was considered a genius.
Well,
that's what happens, guys. You can't go against the gravity, just to go.
well, Ruggero Bertelli, let's make your bottom line here, because it's interesting, and it's all about also generation. You mentioned before, you know, that in a few years, I think you and me will be out of the job market, but the rest of the new generation, we discussed, you know, transition in the wealth transmission, which will be huge, will be impacted by technology. What's your sense of...
No, the real question is, are you sure that you will receive the pension you expected?
This is
I'm not that sure.
Don't celebrate it, because the government
I'm not
is
celebrating,
not
I'm just saying. I mean, I worked kind of 40 years to that, but...
The probability to receive our pension is higher in this system than in the peer-to-peer system. I think so. I think so.
Yeah. And how about what you see in your keywords and your key message for that?
It is clear that we are in, and thank you, Massimo, and thank you, I don't remember. Giulia. Because I think that we have to think about this, but probably we have to think individually. But the problem is our behavior in front of technology, and then the need to invest money in this direction, probably to invest time in this direction. Our time had to be invested in this direction. I hope that our industry, because it's also mine industry, will comprehend the importance to invest in this direction and to control or participate to the crypto ecosystem. They have to participate, not to close the eyes or to think that this is not important. They have to invest. And I think that in the very near future, there will be intelligent banks or intelligent intermediary that could comprehend this kind, because the banks have the information, have the data about our behavior, and they could create the platform and the algorithms and the system to create better services for the final client in this kind of new technology scenario. I think so, and I hope so. Because
1 minute for Giulia Gaddari, takeaway.
Well, I completely agree with the professor, and I may add intelligent regulators as well, as much as possible. And I mean, given the infrastructure and the situation we're in, I mean, I think the best thing that a regulator can do now is to, obviously, no regulator, it's already very late in the days, but these technologies cannot be ignored anymore, is to understand them and trying to embed them in as much as possible in the framework we have now, which is obviously what the MFSA is trying to do, always keeping in mind the regulatory framework.
Well, it was very lively discussion, and I received many questions. Unfortunately, we have to go on, so thanks again, Massimo Siano, Ruggero Bertelli, Giulia Gaddari, grazie.